Hi guys, today we're going to continue talking about shapes. Today we're actually going to be talking about three-dimensional shapes. So if you'd like to follow along in your Ready Math textbook, this is lesson 33B, Describe Three-Dimensional Shapes. I'm on page 382. If you'd like to follow along, please do. 382. So here we go. Use what you know. You have learned to name and sort three-dimensional shapes. Special vocabulary can help you describe how the shapes are similar or different. Take a look at this problem. Marcy uses these beads to make bracelets. How can she sort the beads into groups? So as you can see here, let me scroll down. Marcy has these beads here. Okay, she has eight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different beads, and they are all different three-dimensional shapes. So they're asking us, how can she sort the beads into groups? Well, some of them are somewhat similar, and some of them are very different. So let's look at the first question, A. A says, how are some beads similar? So similar meaning the same. How are some of them similar? Well, you almost have to imagine these three-dimensional shapes in your hand as if you're holding them. If you were holding them, sometimes it makes it a little bit easier. Unfortunately, I don't have any of these shapes with me at this time. So we're just going to have to imagine we're holding these shapes. So how are some of them similar? Well, if you notice, some of these shapes have almost like a flat side to them. So this shape here has a flat side on the top and bottom. This one has a flat side here, and there's even more. So if they have a flat side, we could answer that question by saying, for A, we could say some beads, I'm actually able to stack them. If it has a flat side, I can stack these beads. Now, there are some beads that cannot be stacked. So if they cannot be stacked like this here, this does not have a flat side at all. It's all rounded, it's all curved. This, we would actually say, we can actually roll this bead. So once again, the answer for A, how are some beads similar? Some beads can be stacked and some beads can roll. So as you look at these, can you figure out which ones can be stacked and which ones can be rolled? Okay. B, how are some beads different? Some beads have points on top and some beads again have flat surfaces. So this one has a point on top. This one has a point, but it's more at the bottom. Um, there's this one has one on top, and so on. So again, the answer for B: how are some beads different? Some beads have points on top, and some have flat surfaces. For C, it says describe one way you could sort these beads. If I were to take some of the beads and put them into a certain pile, um, based on their attributes or how they look similar, how would I do that? Well, one way I can sort them is on their based on their size. Maybe I could have a pile of small beads, a pile of medium-sized beads, and a pile of large beads. Um, I can also sort them based on the shapes that I see. So some of these three-dimensional shapes here are actually made of two-dimensional shapes. So this shape here has triangles as the sides. You can actually see triangles. Or maybe this one right here, this is kind of like an oval shape. Okay. So again, the answer for C, describe one way to sort the beads. Well, I gave you two. I said by size or by the shapes that I see. All right, let's continue. All right, it says the beads from the previous page are three-dimensional shapes. Three-dimensional shapes have many faces, edges, and vertices. So those words there, faces, edges, and vertices, those are important vocabulary for this lesson, okay? So we need to know what those words mean. So let's start with what a face is. A face is a flat part of a shape. So any flat sides are considered a face, okay? The next one, oops, let me go ahead and erase that. I forgot that it does that. Let me erase this real quick. Okay, so we know what a face is. Now, an edge is where two faces meet. So they kind of pointed out this here would be an edge, but there's multiple edges. This would be an edge. This would be an edge. Even this one here would be an edge. Actually, it would go all the way there. Some of you might be thinking, why are some of these edges solid lines? Why are some of them dotted lines? Well, these dotted lines are the edges. Like if I were to have this shape in my hand, I wouldn't be able to see this back edge here. Okay, so if it's a dotted line, it's an edge that I cannot see, but I know it's there. Okay, so an edge is where two faces meet. A vertex is a point where two edges meet. So kind of like a corner would be an easy way to remember that. When there's more than one vertex, they call them vertices. So if it's one, like right here where they're pointing, okay, let me highlight that. This edge and this edge meet, that would be considered a vertex. So that's one vertex, but there's more. This one, this edge meets this edge here. So that's another vertex, this little corner here. So if it's more than one, we call them vertices. All right. So those are the three words that we really need to take away from this lesson. What a face is, what an edge is, and what a vertex is. Okay, let's go ahead and continue. Here are Marcy's beads. Look for the faces, the edges, and the vertices. So now they give these shapes a name. Some of these you probably already knew before, and some maybe you didn't know, like a cube. Maybe you knew that one. This one is a cube. It's like a three-dimensional square or like a box. Okay, we have a cube, a pyramid, a prism, cylinder, cone, and sphere. Sphere is kind of like a ball. A ball would be like a basketball would be considered a sphere. Okay, so those are our six shapes that we have for the beads. Okay. All right, so all of these, let's see here. Reflect. Look at the table. How are the beads in the first row different from the beads in the second row? So this first row here at the top, how are these different than the second row? Well, the answer to that question, if you look carefully, the beads in the first row have only flat surfaces. So every single side is flat in a cube, in a pyramid, and in a prism. Okay. They only have flat surfaces. Now, the beads in the second row, they actually have rounded surfaces. Okay. So a cylinder would be almost like a canned good that you would buy from the store. This would be a rounded surface here. A cone, this is a rounded surface, and a sphere. I could technically roll all three of these shapes right here in the second row. Okay. Um, so again, the answer to number one, the beads in the first row have only flat surfaces, and the beads in the second row have rounded surfaces.